be able to, you can't get into the meeting itself, so he wouldn't be able to grab it there. But he's on the phone.
Okay.
We'll make it work.
Okay. So we are all set and ready to start, and I do apologize for all the technical difficulties this afternoon.
Hey, it happens. Thank you, Joretta. At least we have a full house here. All right, so we are getting started now with the Public Works Facilities and Sustainability Committee meeting. It is September 5th, 2024, and just a little bit after 6 o'clock, 6:09, and we'll go ahead and get started. We'll just do a quick acknowledgement here of who's here. We have joining us on the phone, Carol Anderson Blanks. And forgive me, guys, I can't see everybody, especially those of you on the phone. So please call out if I miss you.
I'm not on the phone, Barry. I'm on, but you can't see my camera. Just for clarification.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We have Deputy Mayor Ben Winograd. I am told I can't see her. We have Mayor Cantor on the phone, and I think Councilor Tiffany McGinnis is still with us somewhere here. Town Manager Rick Ledwith, Director, I don't see Bob Palmer, but he was here, and I don't see
I am
John.
here.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
And we have John. Maybe I just need to widen out my, no, that's not going to work. And we have John Phillips, Public Works. And I see the two Catherines, Catherine Devini, sorry, and Catherine Bruns. I don't know if I've missed anybody else because I can't see everyone. So
Councilor Walters,
there you are.
here,
Sorry.
and also Councilman Zdanowicz.
Yeah, I'm here too.
All right. Sorry, I apologize. People are disappearing off of my screen here for some reason, and it says I'm on grid, but I don't see everybody. So we'll go ahead and get started. Call this meeting to order. And the first item there is approval of the minutes from May 2nd and June 6th, 2024. Were there any questions about those minutes? Rick, is there anything that we need to know about those minutes before we?
No, Mr. Chair, those minutes are ready to be approved by the committee.
All right. So do we have a motion to
So moved.
approve the minutes? And a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 All right. Got that out of the way, and we're going to dive right in here because we got a couple updates that I'm kind of excited to hear about. And I will shoot it over to Rick, and then I think John Phillips is going to go with his presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, everyone. Great to see everyone. As the chair said, Mr. Phillips does have another meeting he needs to get to, so we're going to put Public Works for our viewers out there. We're moving the agenda around a little bit. We'll put Public Works first, and Catherine Devini will give an update on sustainability, and then we'll finish with Bob Palmer with our plant facilities update, and finish with an update on the animal control facility through Bob's report as well. And before I turn things over to John, just wanted to thank our entire council for joining us at last month's Committee of the Whole meeting, where we discussed unit-based pricing in our food scrap diversion program, primarily focusing around the Morley pilot program, and then the decision on whether to move forward with unit-based pricing on a townwide basis as a pilot. So, which, as you recall in that meeting, we decided not to move forward with the unit-based pricing, but we're tasked with pursuing a food scrap diversion program on a voluntary basis townwide. John will present a couple of options that we could pursue for food scrap diversion programs that he will present, and then we can discuss next steps. And through you, Mr. Chairman, I will turn things over to our Director of Public Works, John Phillips. John?
Thank you, Town Manager, and through you, Chair Barry Walters, John Phillips, Director of Public Works, West Hartford. And those who are watching from home, I apologize for being on the phone. I'll have Catherine Bruns, if she could upload the PowerPoint presentation for anybody that's watching can view. Catherine, just let me know when it's up.
I'm showing that it's sharing, but if people aren't seeing it.
It's up.
Okay. Gosh, I don't see
Okay,
it on my screen, but okay. Mm-hmm.
All right, so the first slide is, so this presentation is about Public Works and Waste Management, a food diversion program, a food scrap diversion. Slide 2, please.
Okay.
Yep.
So food scrap diversion, food scrap means keeping all foods out of the waste stream. This includes food scraps from meal prep, leftovers, expired foods. Collecting food scraps are turned into beneficial products like energy and compost. 3. So we're here tonight because of the recommendations from the Committee of the Whole on August 7th, 2024, where Public Works was asked to develop a town-wide food scrap diversion program to support the town's waste reduction efforts. In doing so, we came up with 2 options, working closely with Catherine Bruns, our recycling coordinator. Option 1, as we've talked about before, and it was a part of the unit-based pricing program and the pilot that we did in Morley. And again, to recap quickly, the food scrap diversion program, along with the UBP program in the Morley School District, was very successful. According to DEEP and programs that they've run, and Waste Zero, their consultant, is one of the best performing and performance for food scrap diversion that they've seen by all the matrices. So just to recap briefly, what is curbside collection? Well, it's available to all resident households throughout our community of West Hartford. Now this is only an option, but participants could purchase a 13-gallon cart. The other option is we could provide it for as a municipality. We can provide the carts at no cost to the participants. But we're looking at it right now is identically to the way we do the yard waste barrels, where the participants in yard waste purchase a 96-gallon cart. So in this case, as this option is presented, participants would purchase a 13-gallon cart. But again, we could choose to purchase the carts for the residents. Collections will be weekly. Can't say that they'd be on your collection day, your actual waste collection day, because we'd want to optimize collection routes. So if the program starts off with, for instance, only 10% of the community, 2,000 households, we would want to optimize the collection routes then to stay strict on their collection day. So there is a potential of having a collection day for food waste all weekly and not be on your normal trash collection day. And then again, the food scraps will be collected and then go to Quantum Biopower, which is drivable from West Hartford, just located in Southington, where that food scrap will be converted to energy and the byproduct of a compost. Next slide.
Okay.
So curbside collection benefits, highly convenient because it's at the household. You can go from kitchen to curb and the materials will be collected weekly. It does ensure a higher participation rate because the availability is for everybody in the community, each household, including our rental families, 3 families and less. The cart is easy to use. It's a 13-gallon cart. It's a mini cart of what we have today for our trash and recycling bins. It's on wheels, stands about 3.5 feet tall, but it's only a 13-gallon cart because food by volume is heavy, but it's not large by volume of space. And again, we recommend a weekly collection, and this should help reduce the waste because we will be collecting, well, the opportunity to collect from every household would be there. The second option is food scrap at drop-off locations. Again, Catherine Bruns and I have researched this even prior to all our efforts into the Morley pilot program. This tends to be a common program for municipalities who are just getting into food scrap diversion. I would say West Hartford is probably a little bit further along and are just getting into it because we're in our schools. We've done pilots before, so I think food scrap diversion is pretty familiar with our community and definitely with all the work that Catherine Brent has been doing with education and outreach on this topic. But we'd be remiss not to show you, the council, that there are multiple options that are viable to achieving our objectives here. So drop-off of station locations would be available to all residents, again, just like curbside collection, but they'd be located at drop-off locations throughout all our town parks and town facilities. We've identified 12 locations in total that we would have these cans, and the picture that you see there is the one that Manchester's using for their drop-off station locations. So it's a hardened can. It's attractive, but it's designed specifically for a food waste collection process. It's free to the residents, but a permit is required through an app. And it's a no-cost app to the participants. Basically, what the app does, the connectivity of the app unlocks the lid of the container that you see in that picture. You have 24/7 access to these drop-off locations. Homebound households, we certainly would encourage a help a neighbor program. If they exist in your neighborhood, certainly encourage those to be developed. But we would consider alternate supporting programs as demand for the service increases, so that the homebound household would still have access to food waste drop-off. And these containers, the types of containers we're looking at for this process, would address concerns of wildlife intrusion. The benefits for a drop-off station, obviously, again, with trying to achieve a community saturation, if you would, 12 convenient locations throughout town. We'd be covered at all locations with the benefit of all of our walking parks, our the Ellen Community Center, the Faxon Library, our North End Library, and Senior Center. These containers are certainly a bear and rodent proof because they're hardened steel, lockable, and the food waste container that actually collects the food, you dump into a container that's inside these metal containers. It's certainly cost effective versus curbside collection. And again, the accessibility of 24/7. And I'll use myself as an example. I used in my community a drop-off location. And so, probably like many communities, health conscious households who are doing food prep, getting your lunches made for kids going to school all week, you could generate a lot of food on that Sunday afternoon chore day. Or if you had a big meal that involved a animal carcass like a chicken, or this summer enjoying corn on the cob, or anything that you got from food stamps or food prep, you can bring it right to the location right after that larger meal or after a food prep session you might have had in your kitchen, and you won't have to wait for that collection to come around that could be later in the week and holding on to that food waste. So that's one of the personally that I know of as a great benefit to having drop-off locations. So there only being real two options, we think, to achieve a food waste diversion program for West Hartford. There is before you now the cost comparison of the two programs. They're basically simple line items. You've got really the cost of collection, transportation, focusing on curbside collection first. We're estimating early on in the programming, we'll see probably 2,000 participants, or 10% of our population would participate. And we're estimating about $200 per household annually to collect food waste at the curb. The cards in this comparison, they're showing what the cart would cost a resident to purchase them outright. However, if we were to purchase them, I believe there's be about a $65,000 upcharge to the total cost on the first year cost. Our disposal fees, we would save $35 per ton on MSWs. So food waste disposal is about $60 a ton, where our waste is $95 a ton. Educational outreach, we're paying a line item of $24,000, and that's just for having a robust program to make sure we catch all corners of our community, address whether we have weekend events, fair events, all the mailings that we'd have to have posters and really get the word out that the program is launched, and we would want as much participation as possible. So overall, a first year cost for curbside collection would be $424,000 annually estimated. Again, that's the only assumption of 2,000 participants, with an annual reoccurring cost of about $464,000. Again, we're assuming an annual increase of about 10% in participation year over year, and that could grow. Something to note, we anticipate that $200 per household would probably hold true for the first, call it 5,000 participants. There's a possibility of getting a price raise if we start getting more than 5,000 participants in the community. What that price break would be on that $200 is unknown at this time. The drop-off station option, collection and transportation is obviously much less because the truck will just go to those 12 locations. The contract we would have with the collector and hauler would include station maintenance to keep the stations clean, but remove the food waste weekly, or if they're well used, we'll remove waste from there twice a week. The drop-off stations on the unit, they run about $1,600 to $1,800 per unit, so we're estimating $45,000 to outfit the drop-off stations. There's an app fee. The app fee is paid for by the program at $3,000 annually. Again, the disposal fees is a saving. Same educational outreach. Again, our goal is to make sure everybody knows that this opportunity is out there, and we would want these people to take advantage of the drop-off locations. Station build-outs, we'd want to put up signage, maybe eventually build little cubicles, pour concrete pads so from a physical maintenance standpoint, they're easy to maintain from a physical standpoint. We estimate first-year costs at $124,000 with annual recurring costs of $62,000 annually. And so all that, a lot of information there. Again, just the two programs, or comes to our next steps. Tonight, I'm hoping we can get a consensus of the options to move forward. So that consensus would help Public Works to know and initiate the supporting resolutions and program funding to kick off either one of the programs. We'd have to initiate procurement process and support the programs for resources and implementation. And then obviously we'd want to start designing and pushing out our educational outreach. So that's a presentation of food waste diversion. Again, a task that was asked for Public Works during the committee of the whole back in August. Be happy to take any questions to further clarify or give greater details on the program.
Thank you, John. I have a couple questions, but I'm going to defer to committee members first if they have questions. Councillor Blanks and Councillor Zdanowicz, and Council, if you have any questions. Mark. Oh.
Mark can go.
Okay. Go Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Carol. Appreciate this. Good info. Was there any consideration to make it mandatory or a larger section, or make it mandatory for one section and kind of scale it forward, or maybe just a different way of implementing and having more people participate than the 10%? Like scale it forward 10% 1 year participation, maybe make certain sections mandatory over the years. I'm just kind of figuring out how we get to more participation.
You mean like take sections of town and say, morally, everybody has to do it now? Is that what you mean?
I guess. I don't know if that's an option given what we did with the test. I guess this is the next best thing. I kind of just talking out loud at this point. Yep. And seeing if there was any way to get more participation than 10%.
Barry, through the chair, John Phillips, Director of Public Works. Mark, that's actually a great question. One we've talked about in Public Works in quite detail. And Catherine, feel free to jump in if you have an idea on this. So mandatory would be extremely difficult, and here's why. There'd be no way to measure it or even determine compliance. Many reasons why somebody wouldn't have a food waste barrel out for that week, whether they could be home composting, what their eating habits are. Maybe if you eat 100% out, you eat out regularly and you have no leftovers. You vacation in the summer, you summer in Cape Cod or down Connecticut shoreline. So it'd be just very difficult to determine why somebody doesn't have food waste out on a particular collection day. I think it's, I would love to be more than 2,000 participants. That's really, we're just being conservative in our approach, not to overestimate how many people would jump in year one. But I think 2,000 was a decent number to start with. We could strike luck and get 5,000 right away, and then have it grow 10%, 15% year over year. I think growth will happen in the outer years, like years 3, 4, 5, because I think it'll become more prevalent, more popular. It's becoming a more of a commonality nationwide. It's just not a West Hartford program. An interesting stat Catherine has, I don't have it in front of me, Catherine, but I believe food waste diversion programs and acceptance of food waste diversion has increased somewhere in the neighborhood of 49% in recent years. So it is
That's
growing.
right.
I think it will become more popular. Again, I'm just using 2,000 as a start-off point to come up with a budget number. But it'd be a great story if we launched out and we got 5,000 participants right away. That would show that the community is locked in, dialed in, and want to do their part to reduce our waste. But I want to be clear, it takes a lot of food to reduce your waste, because it is technically, only about 24% of our waste stream. This program will fall very similar. It's not identical to our blue cart recycling and our brown cart yard waste, or our bag yard waste program. These aren't cost recoverable programs. These are material management programs. We separate our recyclables in a blue cart because of material management practices. It's the best practice. We separate our yard waste because it's a material management best practice. This would be a third opportunity for a best practice on material management. But obviously it has greater impact on environmental initiatives. I hope I answered your question, Mark.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it.
Councillor Blanks?
Thank you, Barry. Sorry, I'm just having technical difficulties. Great report. This is awesome. I know it's what do I want to say? Challenging, right? These are challenging times, and we are going back to the drawing board so that we can get this right. So, John, this is just awesome what you're doing. And I just have a quick question. Thank you, Mark, for yours. And my question is around the build outs and the maintenance. Will that require additional staff, or will we utilize the staff we have and just introduce modifications to their duties?
Carol, again, great question, John Phillips, Director of Public Works. So maintenance, so if you were talking specifically on the drop-off location, it would have no impact on the work volume of our current staffing levels. We're solid there. Within the contract that we put out the bid to have somebody collect it, we're going to include maintenance responsibilities in that collector, because the collector will see the material on a weekly basis. We'll see the location, and we'll bake in one of their scope of work to make sure the site is kept clean. And if there are any, greater issues that they could deal with at that moment, to obviously call into Public Works so we can deal with it immediately.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set, Barry. Back to you.
Thank you. I know that, I know a primary concern of our residents is going to be the wildlife, as you had referred to, and the bears and the rodents. And you made a reference there to that it would be animal-proof containers for both options, correct?
So,
John, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yep, Barry. So
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Catherine. You can answer.
Okay, so this is Catherine Bruns, recycling coordinator. So the curbside collection buckets would be similar to the ones that were in the pilot program. They seal, they lock, to the degree that your trash can does. So the same materials at the curb, it's just separated out. So the wildlife intrusion issue is sort of the same. The advantage of a drop-off container is people who don't want food scraps on their property for a long time because they're worried about that, or because they've had problems with it, can actually remove it immediately from the property. And anyone who's done food scrap separation knows that after you've taken the food out, your trash doesn't smell, and it can be there for a while before you need to take it out. So it's sort of advantageous either way, but particularly when you take it off your property and do it in a drop-off container. Those drop-off containers are bear and rodent proof. Does that answer
Excellent.
your questions?
That does, and I wanted to clarify so that it was, you know, reiterated that they are either way, either option is not necessarily going to be problematic and more so than it may already be. So, does going from here, does anybody else have any questions? And again, I cannot see everybody, so please let me know. If you have my texts, you can text me.
Counselor Walters, I have my hand up.
Yes.
Thank you. I have two questions actually. So for the drop-off locations, what is the purpose of the app?
The app ensures that people have some buy-in to the program. It helps with contamination, and they'll need it to be able to open the lid. There's also an option that we got some bids for, or add-on options for a keypad for people who may not be savvy or don't like to use technology like a smartphone. And so you would have a keypad option to be able to open the lid. It's really to be able to open the lid so that other people don't use it as a trash can. It's just for access, but it's free. And also you could, if you have particular contamination, you might be able to identify it if people have, if you know which app has opened it, then you can do some targeted education. Like, you can put the marinara in there, but not the jar, or you can put the rotten grapes in there, but not the plastic bags they came in. Things like that. That's just, it's a new behavior. So there's growing pains along with it, but that's the reason for the app.
Okay.
Additionally, the app would give us important data on participation. Obviously, we'll have data on weight that we divert from our weight stream, but I think an important data point is to see community, infiltration and people participating in the program.
Thank you. And so as a follow-up to that, you would need to be a West Hartford resident in order to download the app then, right? We wouldn't have residents coming in from out of town and leaving their food waste with us that we then pay to.
That is correct.
collected.
It would be like Manchester. It's only open to residents of West Hartford.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question, or I guess that was 1A and B. And so then my second question is around experience with these drop-off locations in other places. Can you just talk a little bit about how well they've worked and how many people have participated? It feels to me like we're estimating 10% participation in either option. And no,
there's
No?
a lower
Okay,
there's
I
a
missed that.
lower estimated participation with a drop off. It's considerably lower. The incentive for people to take it off property is people who really want to do it. And now I get calls, probably at least one call a day. When will we have an option in West Hartford? I don't think people are those people who are calling me are particular which option it is. But I even had a call from a woman today saying, I thought the pilot ended, but I still see those green buckets and I'd like to be a part of it. So I have to call her back and say, that's the private contractor, Blue Earth, it was in the Morley neighborhood. So the advantage of curbside collection is you will have a higher initial participation rate because but it comes at a higher cost. The drop-off program.
Do we know what the estimated participation would be in a drop-off program? That's my question.
I mean, when I have researched, not really, but
we don't know. Okay.
No, yeah.
Thank you.
And also to follow up on Catherine there, the lids have to be locked, and so I know this sounds like a no-brainer type of statement, but it's not like we can lock these with a key and expect everybody to have a key. So it's got to be something that like an app or something that everybody can have access to and use. So an app or a keypad type thing. So otherwise everybody gets in it, including the rover and Yogi. So are there any other questions? I'm going to rely
This
on
is
people.
Catherine Divini, energy specialist. This may be a silly question, but going back to the question of participation rates, is there any benefit to asking our community which preference they have? Presenting the two options, or are we comfortable with the estimated data? I thought it just maybe give us some more data points to make our decision on, and reaching out to different parts of the community that weren't necessarily involved in the pilot.
John Phillips, Director of Public Works, Captain. That's a great idea. I think it's doable through, the only problem is our reach would only be through our Renee's office and the amount of email activity that she can push out. It gets good coverage email-wise. It gets good coverage on Facebook. So I think we'd see a pretty decent snapshot. Public Works can certainly come up with something and have that launch if it's the decision of the council to do so.
Thank you, Catherine and John. John, this is probably not a fair question for you, but is there one that you think would work better than the other? I trust your vast knowledge on this topic.
Well, you know what? On a professional level, I think there's some very I think there's some commonalities to both of them. I think they both can be successful to the point of what their capabilities are. The food waste drop off will be what Captain Brundon mentioned. For those who really want to do it, I can only use myself as an example. I personally, I've been doing food waste drop off for a few years now at a drop off location. I probably wouldn't change. I'd like the opportunity to go tonight if I just want to get rid of half the pizza we didn't eat and I'm not going to eat again. Or if I had a rotisserie chicken, having that option at my fingertips is just, to me personally, how I manage my food waste is irreplaceable at this point. But participation at the curb really encourages each and every household to have an opportunity to be involved and do their part. I think we've done a good job with our discussions over the last several years, especially over the last year. I guess the most successful thing I can say on the good job is the people are talking trash in the town of West Hartford. They know that there are issues. They know we're working for solutions. And I think people are becoming more acutely aware that change has to happen and everybody is a stakeholder in that change. Here's an option. I mean, should we offer both? Maybe not 12 locations, maybe pare down the locations, but have drop-off locations and offer a curbside collection. And to those who want to participate at the curb, because I think that could catch it from both angles, because I think you'll have people that are really dedicated and want to do it at the curbside, or want to at least have the option to bring it to curbside. To a drop-off location. So that's an option too for the council. But again, those are monetary decisions for the council.
Right. And I do have to say that I actually kind of like the idea of having a hybrid system where we have voluntary and, once we get to a point of a transfer station, we'll have one spot automatically there, but, maybe having a couple more around town. I mean, maybe that is an option. And does anybody else have any other questions? Because I do want to be mindful of.
I've got to run, but Catherine can answer any more questions, but I do have to run.
Okay. I was just saying
that. My delay, but I do have something hard to get to for 7 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you, John. Thank you for your work on this.
I do have one thought. Okay, thanks, John. I do have one thought as a representative group that we have here in this meeting is to sort of take a vote on which you would prefer, because we have a wide variety of individuals. I can say that I live in the pilot neighborhood, and I have a neighbor who I don't know that well, who came up to me last week when it ended and said, I was not a fan and I didn't want to do it, but I knew you lived on my block. So I put it out, and she said, I can't imagine putting it back in my trash again. but she sort of did it under duress. You know what I mean? She tried it, and which is also, John did it last year to try it out, and now he can't imagine it again. So where is that tipping point where you sort of encourage it, and then you see the tremendous benefits of it for many reasons? They can be environmental for some people, economic for others, rodent for others. So, you know, she got hooked by the curbside, but I asked her, would you be willing to take it to a drop off? This person who was not for it. And she said, yes. So, you know, it's a little bit hard to predict that behavior.
Right. Okay. So with that in mind, I don't know, Rick, how we would want to, I mean, this isn't a formal vote, so we're not.
No,
least I
what we
don't
could do,
think
Mr. Chairman, is, I know we've given you a lot of information to kind of,
Yeah.
to weed through. To Catherine's point, you could take a little straw poll right now just to see who would be interested in what option, not necessarily tied to that vote. But what I would like the council to have the opportunity to do is just kind of think about this for the next few days anyways. So not necessarily have us move in one direction this evening, but to give both of those options some thought. You know, if we, you know, to Catherine Deviney's point, if we wanted to go out and do some polling of our residents, that could be the next step as well. That would just delay the rollout. We're looking to pursue a couple of grants as well. So we're looking to move sooner versus later. But certainly, why don't we have a council meeting on Tuesday night? Why don't folks think about it over the weekend? And then we can touch base on this informally on Tuesday, and then I can get back to John and Catherine at that point in terms of what potentially would be the next step from there. Does that sound fair?
I think that sounds fair, and I think that it would also give us time to find out what kind of turnaround time Renee might have if we were to choose to send out a quick survey, nothing more than you know, a 30-second survey. You know, keep it quick.
Yeah.
And then I think it's totally fair. Do my colleagues agree with that thought?
If I might just also recommend that you run this by the waste working group of the Sustainable West Hartford Commission that was created and did so much work on this issue. Just that might be another touch point that you would consider.
Yeah, great point, Catherine. Thank you.
I like that recommendation, Chairman Walters, that we give it a few days to think about, and then give our recommendation to the town manager. Although personally, I do like both, the hybrid model, if you will, the curbside, and also the option to drop off. And I think it's Catherine Bruns, as she suggested, many people may be reluctant, but I think more and more just environmental evidence, it encourages us that we have to do something. We can just no longer sit on our hands or pretend that nothing exists. So we do have to do something. And this may be a good way to slowly introduce behavior change. And then eventually people will probably say, you know what, I'll just go ahead and get on board. But that to say, I do agree with your recommendation.
Thank you, Carol. And before I turn it over to Mark, because I think he had a comment, Rick, is it possible to get that third option added in there? Hybrid?
Absolutely. Yeah, we
Okay.
will work on that tomorrow.
Okay. Mark, did you have a comment or a question? Are you good?
No, I'm good. Thanks, Barry. I like all the comments and the recommendations.
Excellent. Okay. Well, if that's, I guess that's where we stand with it. We will ponder it and get some additional information, see what Renee will, what her time frame is, if she's able to do a turnaround on a quick survey, and we'll try to make some enlightened decisions come Tuesday, or at least get a step further to what we need to do. So with that, I think we can move on to the second thing on the agenda, correct, Rick?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we will turn it over to Catherine Domini, our energy specialist, who will give her monthly sustainability update. But before she did that, I just really want to take a moment to commend Catherine for her leadership and work with many of our staff as we pursue sustainable CT Gold certification. So as the council knows, we're one of 24 communities in the state who are silver certified, and we were just recently eligible to pursue gold certification. And Catherine has been working very hard for the last year and really over the last 3 months as we were getting closer to submitting our application to apply this past August. So thank you, Catherine, for all of your hard work and patience with all of us working through the application process. And through you, Mr. Chairman, I will turn it over to Catherine.
Thanks. Yeah, so the town manager explained that we just submitted a couple of weeks ago our application for gold level certification within the Sustainable Connecticut program. I included in the packet a little bit of information about the Sustainable Connecticut program, which many of you may be familiar with, but we'll save that for another day. So yes, a lot of people contributed, but it was a huge lift, which ended on August 20th. So I'm thankful not to have to go through that again for another 3 years, and perhaps bring some additional staff into that process, since as you graduate up in different levels, and there, but to that point also, there's a lot. I'm one person, right? So I can only digest so much of what's going on in our town. And I said today at our all staff meeting, that there's a lot of great sustainability work going on in the town that I don't know about, that we all don't know about. And it might be nice to highlight some of that other work and shift perspectives in the future. And I also mentioned today that, the one problem I have with a certification process is that it's backwards looking. It gives you credit for what you've already done. And so in my mind, that's over. I'm already looking to the future and what we can do next. So to that end, the Sustainable West Hartford Commission is also doing the same. They're preparing their annual report to the town council. This was a requirement in the new ordinance that created them. And they are just about 1 year old. So they are inviting any one of you to their next meeting, September 30th, where they're going to kind of be working on that report, not only their year in review, but their look ahead, what they would like to be working on in 2025. So they invite all of you to that planning meeting, should you wish to attend on September 30th. And they'd also like to request, Mr. Chairman, that they be allowed to present their report to this committee, either at your November or December meeting. So we'll leave that with you for consideration, and maybe the chairman, Bernie Pelletier, will follow up with you. Just to hit a couple of highlights that Catherine and I put in here, and feel free to ask questions, but I don't want to spend too long because I know we're running long. On October 6th, the commission, jointly with the Sierra Club of Connecticut, and we always co-locate with the Blueback Farmers Market, we're going to be hosting a West Hartford electric showcase, which focuses on electric vehicles, e-bikes, electric lawn equipment, and other equipment like heat pumps, electrification. So I know we had Councilor Blanks a couple of years ago test out one of our e-bikes. So we'd love to have some counselors at that October 6th event. It's pretty big. We have some students involved this year as well from Kingswood, Oxford. So that's great. Catherine has a couple of bullets in here about, do you want to speak to them, Catherine?
Oh, you're
I'm
on
not
there.
looking at them right now. I was
Oh,
so
okay,
busy with John's slide. So
Catherine is bringing on a couple more elementary schools into the food waste diversion business. We have Wolcott Elementary School and then Whiting Lane are the schools that are on tap. And we should be able to get through all the elementary schools pretty soon. And then we'll be moving on to the middle schools and back to the high schools, because we started with the high schools and then we revamped our plan over the last few years. Catherine has also been working with the libraries to create kind of kid-friendly, really engaging recycling awareness information, which is really targeted at the materials that the library has in their facilities. And the library actually spent several months kind of monitoring and going through their waste so that they knew what was there and what was recyclable. So that was a great education campaign that Catherine engaged in. And then just a couple of other things we've got going on. There'll be more on my next summary, but a lot of my efforts were put into Sustainable Connecticut for the last couple of months. We do have a resolution coming up. I think it'll be on the next town council agenda for Public Works and the street lighting group to use a $123,000 energy conservation and block grant to fund some LED street lighting replacements and elimination of old inefficient fixtures. And then we just are trying to use up a very old grant that was awarded a couple of years ago through the US DOT CMAQ, that's Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Program. We may be getting our second electric vehicle. We're looking to purchase, we have an e-transit van right now, which is driven around and around the schools by Nutrition Services, which they love. And we may be purchasing a Chevy Equinox for the town and Board of Ed maintenance manager, who also drives around to project sites and facilities quite frequently. So it's a high mileage vehicle. And we have an old grant that's taken a long time for the DOT guys to figure out, because this was the first time that CMAQ money could be used to purchase vehicles. And they've been having some trouble getting through the administrative hoops with how quickly you have to act on a vehicle purchase when they're on the lot. So that's what we've been working on. Happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Catherine. Are there any questions for Catherine? All right. Well, if there are no questions, I guess you were thorough. And maybe next time we'll have some, it sounds like we'll have a much bigger update and more information from what you said. So we will go on to Mr. Palmer, whom I can't see.
Mr. Chairman, I'll kick off Bob's report.
Okay.
It's okay. And thank you, Catherine, for your report. So as folks know, especially our former Board of Ed members who are now on the council, Bob has been incredibly busy this summer, working on dozens of projects, primarily focused around getting our schools ready to open last week, which we did successfully. And Bob's also been working on the community center, and also, more recently, as we move through the summer, the animal control facility. So, and I wanted to add to that piece of tonight's discussion, the animal control facility, by stating that this particular project is important to all of us. It's important to our council. It's important to our residents. We have set aside funding for this new facility, but and as folks know, we've been in a delay with the construction of a new animal control facility. And we've been working closely with our public works director, police chief, fire chief, Bob, and his team to ultimately determine the best location not just for the animal control facility, but also for our fuel station, which, as folks know, we're designing and constructing this year. Our fire training tower, which is located on the Public Works campus right now, which needs to be demolished and rebuilt. We have funding for that. And then also, probably most importantly for this site, is our transfer station. And the challenge with all of these projects is really tied to the transfer station and what we may or may not need in terms of space with that. So our most recent plan called for the animal control facility to be moved from its current location at the end of Brixton Street to 705 Oakwood or 12 Brixton, which are the two new properties that we had purchased back in late 2022. However, after conferring with our team and with our consultants and knowing now that we do have adequate space for our transfer station right where it's presently located, we're going to move forward with keeping the animal control facility in its current location, which is right there at the end of Brixton Street, just pushed back. We had previously cleared space back there behind the current location, and we would move our animal control facility plan back from 705 and 12 to the end of Brixton into that cleared spot. This plan will allow us to move much faster from a construction standpoint, since we won't have any delays due to environmental remediation that we may have to do at 705 and 12 Brixton. So we would be, and I'll let Bob talk more about that, but we would be able to go out to bid very quickly and begin construction in early 2025 when the weather clears. So then what we would do with 705 and 12 Brixton, the property that we purchased, is we would take the fuel station from the Public Works campus, put it into the 705 Oakwood spot. We would move our impound lot, which is located in the campus as well, and move it over across the street to 12 Brixton. And then we would have the public safety training facility, the police and fire training facility. We haven't budgeted for that yet, but that would be located on that site as well. So, and that would free up critical space for John on the main DPW campus. So we do think this is ultimately the better decision. We are ready to move forward with that. And through you, Mr. Chairman, appreciate the time to start that conversation. I will turn things over to Bob to walk us through some of the details.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Town Manager. So as Rick mentioned, we come to those decisions that best fit the needs for everybody and work and expedite the projects as much as they can be expedited. For animal control facility, that was already designed for that site when we had made a decision to take a look at the 705 location. So we have the design. I've attached the renderings that you have seen previously in meetings that we had earlier regarding the animal control facility. It was the same facility that we had talked about before, roughly a 5,000 square foot facility that would handle multiple, both cats and dogs primarily, but also has space for additional types of animals in it and meets all the current state codes and that. So that facility is fully designed. All our consultants have done all their work on the site. It's ready to go. We just have to update the plans a little bit since they're a couple of years old at this point, and then we'd be ready to go to bid so that we can go to bid very quickly. I also attached a rendering of the 705 and 12 Brixton Street. It's really a conceptual design. It's not a rendering of how things would fit there. So the fueling station would fit on the site. We'd also be able to add additional parking for DPW staff. As Rick had mentioned, the impound lot would move over there. And there is a current warehouse at 12 Brixton Street, which is the building is actually in very good condition. We're hoping to transform that into a public safety training facility, as they've been asking for that type of facility for a while, additional space for that. And we think that would be a good potential project. Again, there's no funding for that at this point. We would add that into the capital improvement plan as we go forward in the next budget cycle. So part of the other piece of this puzzle was the fire training tower. It sits on the down at the end of Brixton Street as well. That facility has been condemned by structural engineers. It's really not usable at this point. We also had them take a look at the possibility of fixing it, at least on a temporary basis, while we did a new one. And they said that as we began that investigation, it really became evident that that facility could not be used safely. So at this point, it's abandoned. We're in the process of having it demolished. At the same time, simultaneously, we're beginning the design process with the fire department. So we hope to move quickly on that. There's a lot of pre-designed, prefabbed kind of fire training towers around at this point. So we're hoping that's maybe an option that we can utilize that would really expedite that and get that training facility back up and running. So I think that I'd be happy to take any questions on all those changes before I do the rest of my report at this point, if people had questions. You're muted, Barry.
I just did it too. That all sounds great, both from town manager and from you as well, Bob. I think moving quickly on a couple of these projects is in the best interest of everyone involved. So, and I know that our community is very interested in seeing the animal control facility project moving forward. So all good stuff. Are there any, I do not have any questions. Are there any other members that have questions? No?
No questions from me.
No questions from me.
Okay. Are there any questions from anyone else? No? Well, the folks that I can see have all shaken their head no. So I'll have to go with that. All right. Let's see. Make a quick peek here, make sure I didn't miss anything. So do we have any future agenda items? Thank you, Bob. I'm sorry. Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Rick, for those updates, that report. Do we have any new business, future agenda items that we need to bring up? No?
I don't have
Okay.
it.
Okay, great. I'm looking at my calendar, and I think the next meeting will be around October 3rd, somewhere around there. No? Bob's shaking his head no.
Well, I think
think
we
I
have,
saw it was October
Mr. Chairman, we
17th.
have some holidays that week, so I believe the next meeting will be
October
October
17th.
10th. Is it the
Okay.
17th? Yeah,
It was the
October 17th, sorry.
17th, okay. Okay, so we'll gather around October 17th, and some of you will see next week. Thank you, everyone. If we have nothing else, I think we're ready to adjourn. Yes?
So moved.
So moved.
Second, we're good.
All right. So we are adjourned. Go out and enjoy this evening. Thank you, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Barry.
Thank you.
Good night.